Quick preamble, hi friends, Cash here. Before we jump into RPG Maker Cola, I'd like to forewarn that one of our guests, the one by the name of 16-Bit, unfortunately lost his audio for the first 30 minutes of this podcast. We re-recorded his intro, but if you're wondering why he's not there, that's why. Calunio's audio is unfortunately a little spotty as well, but it's not too noticeable, so hopefully it's good. Otherwise, enjoy listening.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now listening to RPG Maker Cola.
Hey, RPG Maker and player friendos. Welcome to your fizzy, soda-filled source of content for game development opinions that mean very little in the grand scheme of things. It's your favorite RPG Maker podcast, RPG Maker Cola. Or not, that's your decision. I'm your host Cash, also known as Cashmere Cat, also known as the Puzzle Snob, also known as over-eager, awkward lack of coordination, but instead of that feeling, it's in a person. And this is the place for you. It's a chill space where we get together skilled developers from the RPG Maker community to chat cordially and occasionally non-cordially about game development, game design, and probably a whole bunch of unrelated other stuff too. It's casual, it's cool, it's cola. And you can get it at your corner store or local warehouse. Expired cola will be discounted, no refunds. Today I have 3 guests who I'm extremely proud to introduce because each of them is very incredibly skilled. They range in experience in both the RPG Maker community and development as a whole, but they each have something I think is truly unique and worth expressing. Our first guest is a newish developer, someone I only discovered recently. They could have been developing for years, who knows, but someone who appeared with great talent artistically and vision-wise. They're an artist and game developer originally from France, currently living in the USA. Their engine just so happens to be RPG Maker 2003 so far, and they've been around RPGmaker.net, itch.io, Starman Forums, DeviantArt, Newgrounds, Twitter since apparently generally around 2016. Big fan of Dragon Quest, Scott Pilgrim, Mother 3, Majora's Mask, Spirited Away, and other things. Their previous work includes artwork for Indie Pogo, a platform brawler game for 2 to 4 players about bouncing, and art on the fan project Lisa the Hopeful. But our guest wanted to branch out from simply making art for others' games, creator of the early access simple exploration game Monochrome Memories in 2018, kind of a bit cancelled there, but then went on to work, currently working on surreal horror game parody Chateau de Lapin, if that's correct pronunciation, which translates to Rabbit Castle, or at least Google Translate tells me so, and then perhaps most prominently completed the Space Funeral, Giftopia, and Earthbound-inspired hobby project Where the Moon Goes at Night. You might have heard of this, nominated for 5 Massaus this year. You can get it at itch.io or rpgmaker.net. I've played it, it's a wonderful send-off to mysterious and wacky games with a beautiful, colourful art aesthetic. They're a new developer with great prospects in game development and I adore their style. It's the one, the only, ProsciuttoMan, also known as 16-Bit.
Alright, so I'm 16-Bit, ProsciuttoMan, whatever you think is appropriate to call me. So I do artwork and like pixel artwork, and recently I made the game in the RPG Maker 2003 engine Where the Moon Goes at Night. I've worked on demos for other games such as Chateau de Lapin, Monochrome Memories, and currently working on Beetle Ninja. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's a real honor.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing, 16-Bit. Our second guest is one of my favorite developers. Full disclosure, I've had my eye on this guy for a while now, and by a while I mean since I started making games. He's inspired my game development process. His games have a penchant for the weird, the wacky, and psychological, and are often experimental in nature. His writing's impeccable, his games have incredibly effective story function. Creator of a modern world RPG about evil named Alvorada del Mal, I probably butchered the pronunciation, translated Dawn of Evil, and a horror-themed VX disco dance game, Die to Dance, the polarizing Polymorphous Perversity, the less polarizing Nightmares of Jumping Bunnies. Creator also of an interesting hero's journey flip named Depression, which uses some RPG elements in interesting and often unpredictable ways. My personal favourite of his is Susie and Freedom, a non-fiction horror game inspired by a real-life crime that happened in Brazil. This is one of my favourite RPG Maker games of all time, and one of my favourite story games in gaming. But you probably know him best for either the Marvel brothel simulator using characters from the Marvel universe, or Beautiful Escape Dungeoneer, a short game about torture and love, a merger of dating sim and torture chamber puzzle elements. I can truly not think of many developers more daring, but in an intelligent and witty way that makes you think far beyond the games. Very experimental, in other words, just my flavour. We welcome this very prolific, incredible developer. It's Calunio.
Well, thank you very much. I'm extremely flattered for that introduction. It surprised me a bit. I'm very happy and proud to be here and share some of my experiences and thoughts with you. I guess that's it.
Yeah, really glad to have you here, Calunio. I'm about to introduce our last guest, and certainly not our least. Hailing from England, this member has been a part of RPGmaker.net since 2009. That's before some of you listening were born. Creator of The Lost Girls, a story told in present day and through fractured flashbacks where three demon hunters seek redemption in the 21st century. Co-developed with fellow RPGmaker.net developer Pudor. Wow. Creator of Choice as well, a short yet completed game made in XP, a 3-day one-room entry, including a decision-making system where you choose how to fight from a list of options, including 2 possible endings. And their current project is Cover Your Eyes, which is a game gone commercial, yes, a traumatic 2D top-down survival horror experience focusing on family and the sacrifices we make to keep them safe. I'm really excited to talk with this game developer. They are, according to their Twitter, a self-professed wannabe game dev. They like movies, games, and peanut butter. I remember early on I participated in the All Hallows event, which is actually the same one, I think, where Calunio made Susie and Freedom.
Oh, I remember that. Oh.
Yeah. I made a game called Daga, and this guest I'm about to introduce was really kind to my very flawed game. They encouraged my direction skills. They called it Burton-esque. Tim Burton, that is. I don't think they know they helped me in that way, but it made me feel that much more welcome in a community I was still quite new to. It's the long-standing, fantastic developer of yore, with the purple name on RPGmaker.net, which means they're very special. It's StarSkipp.
Oh wow, that's really nice of you. Yeah, I never been talked about it in that way. Yeah, I forgot all about that Halloween contest. I remember you, but
yeah.
Yes, my name's StarSkipp. I'm from England. Been in the scene for roughly 10 years now, maybe 11. Absolutely love making games.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on board. Yeah. So yeah, we have very special guests today, and thank you all for saying yes to being part of this. Now that we're well acquainted, it's Buzz Corner time. Here in this corner, we talk about what RPG Maker games are gaining buzz at the moment. I've asked our guests if they can think of a game. They can bring one game, if they can, to talk about that they're pretty interested in. They don't have to have played it, it just has to have a game page or something that looks interesting to them. My game is actually, I kind of cheated. I went back to an old favourite of mine that I think deserves, a little bit of attention. It's imperfect, but it's quite special, and it's Reap and Sow by Snow Owl. This is a VX-Ace game, started in 2013. It was really beautiful looking, mixture of a farming sim and a surreal, dream explorer. You explore your own mind by entering your dreams, and you take care of a farm during the day. And I don't think they're not working on it anymore, as is the case with a lot of RPGmaker.net games that kind of just get forgotten in the sands of time. But I recommend people to definitely check it out because and its world is lush and engrossing. It just make my heart race faster. It delivered a package full of surprises, sometimes horrifying, sometimes gory, but sometimes tender and graceful, and that kind of just characterizes this developer quite a bit. Yeah, I was thoroughly engrossed throughout. It had its flaws in the farming system and so on, but I think it was overshadowed by its general greatness, the uplifting / harrowing music, and yeah, just really imaginative and vibrant. Yeah, it's a shame that Snarl didn't really continue this, but I could see some sort of revival and just refining of mechanics, making it a really classic game. But yeah, it just kind of got forgotten. Yeah, that's my game. I'm bringing Reap and Sow. Yeah. Calunio, what are you bringing today to the Buzz Corner?
Well, I want to talk about a game that has not been released yet, and This Is Not My Final Form by Irrelex. And the reason I'm so anxious about it is it's because it's made from the same guy who made my all-time favorite RPG Maker game, and possibly one of my favorite RPGs of all time, that is Duck's Car.
Oh, same.
It's an incredible game. It's very old, but it's a great game. First, because of the graphics, the things he was able to do with RPG Maker 2003, a lot of awesome animations that are not very common on RPG Maker 2000 and 2003 games, but mostly because of the plot and the story, and it's one of the best plots I've seen in fiction. I think it's incredible. The plot twists are mind-blowing. I really like it. I would say it's an unforgettable game for me.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, honestly.
But This Is Not My Final Form. I don't know if it catches my attention yet. I think it doesn't look especially interesting so far, but I'm curious just because of the guy who's making it. And I think it's a commercial game, but it's a game I'm definitely willing to pay to play.
I was expecting this was the kind of developer to sort of disappear and never be heard from again, but to think that they're making a new game is quite exciting. Yeah, because it seems like, like the kind of Lysander, he goes on to do different things from Blurred Line and never return to their projects.
Yeah, the Earth stands still when it happens. It's like, oh, Scar 2 or something. But yeah, didn't he make a game before that though? It was for XP. I forgot what it was called, but it was before that one. It was about I remember it had like really nice art, but I think he took the game down after a while and cancelled it. Oh. Yeah, I think I still got the demo somewhere.
I went to go look for it and it's not there. So
yeah,
you're probably right. They took it down. I actually contacted Irrelex to possibly be on this podcast, but they were not so keen. I mean, I think it was just certain people don't want to be on a podcast, but I'm going to edit that out anyway. I just thought you guys would want to know. I was like, damn it, really wanted him to be on because Dux's Scar is incredible. Apparently this game, I love this game's graphics. They're really well polished. And like you said, just trusting it's in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. Because Dux's Scar had a lot of daring, gameplay, mechanic choices that weren't very typical of RPG Maker games, and still aren't very typical. You seemed very kind of weak, and your main character was sort of very weak, and it had interesting things to say about story explained through gameplay mechanics and stuff. It was really, really clever.
It's like a buddy cop film.
yeah in a certain kind of way. So, StarSkipp, what do you bring to the buzz? Let's try and pronounce it all together. Aikai Corner from Mocha. And it's basically the gist of the game is that you're in a sewer and you've got to grab your guitar. So you grab your guitar and you have to get out the sewer. And you fall down a hole, and there's a time limit of 1 minute 30. But the strange thing, I never actually completed the game, but it keeps repeating it over and over again. The 1:30 mark. Okay. And they somehow managed to make the sewers look, you think the sewer level would be really, really lame to play through.
but it really managed to make it interesting. But the only problem was is that a lot of the enemies just went down in one hit. So you have lots of skills, all these magical skills, but all I did was just press attack and that was it. But yeah,
the classic RPG Maker flaw.
Yeah, just so many skills. I was like thinking like, okay, let's try this one. Same animation, but they've got different names. But yeah, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I would probably give it a play sometime tomorrow, but at the moment, yeah, it's managed to make sewer levels quite enjoyable.
I think what makes this really stand out is the graphics are like different shades of purple and pink, and that's about it. Or like purple, pink, and like, yeah, very dark purple. So it's like that monochrome kind of aesthetic, but done really well. And the time limit is an interesting addition. So I wonder what it would be like repeating the same kind of area. It says 30 minutes to an hour or full game time, so I guess it wouldn't get extremely annoying. It would just stay kind of... It won't overstay its welcome.
The game didn't end after hit 0. It said like the bell had chimed, but I never actually like managed to find out where it was coming from. I thought, I must have done something wrong the moment it hit 0, but it went back to 1:30 again. And I was like, that's a bit strange. But I was originally thinking it was just 1 minute 30 long. So every time I was about to like get 5 seconds away, I just think I accidentally died on purpose. So I was all right, start again. So I was playing the whole thing not realising it's not like one of those like trial and error games. It just still carry on.
Not a Groundhog Day game.
No. I thought it was interesting from that point of view until I realised I was actually playing the game wrong.
You were playing a different game. Thanks for bringing those games to the Buzz Corner. We'll transition out of the Buzz Corner to a segment called We've Been Playing Games. Maybe? Hey, have you been playing games? If not, that's all cool. I've asked our guests to talk about the game they're currently playing or have played at least once in the last decade. And I'm not talking about this decade because it's just gone over the line, but explain why they disliked or liked it and why. I am going to bring a game called Soma. Soma is a survival horror video game, first-person style, published by Frictional Games. It's about a sort of facility that you find yourself inside of, but you don't know how you got there. But it kind of unveils itself over time. Honestly, this game, has one of I think, one of the most well-thought-out conceptual stories for a game that you find out by just exploring its environment. The gameplay is sort of just like Amnesia, The Dark Descent. You just hide around corners and peek around the corner to see where the monster is and dodge it, and some key and gate gameplay, but it's generally about the story, and it just reveals it in such a clever way. I haven't, this kind of thing, like, this kind of sensitivity and subtlety in game storytelling, I don't really see that often. I really recommend it especially for people who like kind of unraveling a mind screw over time. Soma is the game for you. Go check it out.
Nice.
Yeah. Has anyone else played this game or not? It's just me.
I've got it on the PlayStation Store. I haven't in my PlayStation library, but I haven't got around to playing it yet. I reckon I got like around 50 games I still need to play, but I'm waiting until I've done all my projects and then start playing those games.
Like, who would have thought when we were young the problem would be too many games and not enough time to play?
I know. I just keep buying stuff and just like not end up playing it. I just think, all right, once I get everything done, I'll play those games and reward myself. So I'm going to play Final Fantasy VII once it comes out, though, 100%.
Yeah, like when I was young, the problem was we only have a small selection of games, so I play the heck out of these games, get all the bonus content, get all the completionists, just finish it all. And now it's just like, do I have to get through all of these games? I bought them, so I feel obliged to do them, you know? So it's a totally different dilemma, and it's crazy to think about. Calunio, what games have you been playing, maybe?
I haven't been playing a lot of games lately, mostly because when I'm working on a game, I don't like to focus on another game.
Yeah.
But I think I need a game to shut my mind off sometimes, to stop thinking about everything else. And that's the kind of game I look for. And I usually play tower defense games. I was playing a game called Ancient Planet, which is pretty good, but it gets old quickly. I did everything I had to do more than once, and I got tired of it, and I started looking for another tower defense game, and I found Mindustry, which is the game you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, he stole the game from me.
Yeah, well, you can talk about it too, because I don't know if I have a lot to say about it.
Yeah,
But it's
I
a
want
game
to.
I started playing like 2-3 days ago, and I'm in love with it because it's just not just complex to a good degree, but I think, in my opinion, it's a very relaxing game because the difficulty is not too high, not too little, and I just like. Let me try to explain how the game works. You basically have to mine stuff and bring them to your base, but there's a lot more to it. And I just think it's very soothing to me creating those little roads to carry resources and metals and whatever to your base while defending from. I don't know. I don't think I can explain the game in a way that will make it appealing. But it's just a game that got me quickly addicted.
I've got a few buzzwords here that might help you out. It's a hybrid tower defense sandbox factory game. Create elaborate supply chains of conveyor belts to feed ammo into your turrets, produce materials for use in building, defend your structures from waves of enemies. Yeah. So that's the... And what I love about it, it's multiplayer. So, like, you can do, like, up to 16-player PvP or co-op. It's cheap, way cheaper than Factorio, so it's easier to convince people to come play with you, but if you want to do it solo, that's fine. But I actually did co-op, which is it was really fun. Like, I always look for co-op games to play, because I like multiplayer games, but I don't like just always fighting against others. I want to, like, work with others to achieve, like, some kind of common objective, and I recommend Mindustry. I love it as well. I thought it was incredible. Very good. And yeah, you said it's really relaxing. It's got a lot of emphasis on how do I make this conveyor belt layout pretty and like efficient.
It's good because you can play the same stage over and over, and you still can think of different ways to create, like you said, the layout and how you're going to place the roads around the map. It's very engaging and interesting. But I didn't know there was a multiplayer mode. But I don't think it's something that interests me, because, like I said, I like games to relax and not think about anything else. And I don't think I would do it if I was playing with someone.
I remember you said something on Discord or IRC about wanting to make a corruption sim at one point. It was pretty interesting stuff. So, like, this interest in tower defense and simulation games seems to, like, line up with what you were kind of aiming for.
Yeah, maybe. I wasn't even remembering that.
Would have been a few years ago.
Yeah.
StarSkipp. What games have you been playing? Maybe.
Oh gosh. Well, usually I don't play that many games, but on occasion I do play Earth Defense Force 4.1, and that's basically the point of the game is to go around these levels and fight giant ants or Godzilla-sized monsters. It's amazing, honestly. You get 100 odd enemies on screen. It's third person. And you can ride in robots, vehicles, tanks, and just blow the hell out of them. It's just mindless action fun. It's over 100 levels, over 100 odd weapons. Definitely YouTube it to see what it's all about. But the graphics are a bit rubbish though, but that's because it, like, takes into account how many enemies are on screen at once.
Yeah, it kind of. So you're saying it sacrifices like
Oh yes,
like
yes,
graphics
frame
for
rate.
the craziness of it all. Oh crap! You're right. There's the literal Godzilla in the city, and you're all like firing at it. Whoa!
No, it's crazy. You can like shoot down buildings and stuff. So you're there to protect the world, but in the process, you end up destroying the world at the same time. Because like due to friendly fire, you end up blowing up various buildings as a shoot one ants.
Yeah. A review says, if Dynasty Warriors had guns and was a bad B movie on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh yeah. Shoot down UFOs. Oh, it's just mindless fun. I actually really enjoy it because, like, on occasion, you get these serious games that you play just for like hours on end. But if you just want like a good quick 5 minutes, just like shooting stuff up, then that's pretty much the game for you.
Incredible. As long as we've got nothing more to talk about these games, we're going to go into our segment called Topics We Must Discuss, because this is a podcast and it's serious. Sorry, I just said that in a cave. There was a little bit of an echo happening. But, I'm going to ask our guests a few questions that we might be interested. I'll probably ask this first question to each. I'll leave it open to someone to kind of jump in if they want to answer first. And, they can just kind of opt in to these questions. First question. How did you come about making RPG Maker games? What's your story?
Well, first of all, I think I'm probably the oldest person here because I'm 37 years old and I started making games in like 1997. So over 20 years ago. And I first heard of RPG Maker when it was RPG Maker 98 or 95. I don't remember the name of the version. And I was making games before that using Delphi, which is a programming language, which I'm not very good at, but I could make very simple games. So when I heard of RPG Maker, I was immediately interested. And then I went to 2000 and 2003, and I think it was 2003 when I made the first game that other people played. Because when I started making games, it was just for me and my friends. I think everyone has a similar story in that regard. But the first game I made for other people was in Portuguese one you mentioned, Alvorada do Mal, which is Dawn of Evil.
Yeah.
But it's a game that I worked for 10 years or maybe more, and I never finished. And in 2009, if I'm not mistaken, I participated on a contest in a site called Gaming World. It was before RMN. And there was a contest with the team Fanboys, and we were supposed to create a fan game based on any trademark. And it was then that I created Marvel Brotto. It was just for fun, and it was a birthday present to my brother because he was playing a terrible Brotto simulator at the time. I don't remember the name. But the thing is, 1 year later, it was 2010, I think it was when I entered RMN, I posted Marvel Brotto, and someone wrote something about it, and the game became popular very, very, very fast. I remember it reached the peak of over 1,000 downloads per hour.
Wow.
But then Marvel itself sent an email to RMN to take it down. And then it was taken down. But I realized that I shouldn't make games in Portuguese anymore because, well, people speak English, and I think I could use a broader audience for my games. And I started making games since. My second game was also for a contest that was Beautiful Escape. And those are probably my two biggest games, but I'm making games since, and I think my games are evolved in a way.
that seems to be quite a big moment in RPG Maker's history with Marvel Brothel, and I think Beautiful Escape Dungeoneer was also in a written about in a printed book as well, which is kind of crazy to think about. Which is about I think it was something about game ethics or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I have that book. It's ethical design in games or something.
I'll ask maybe StarSkipp. How did you come about making RPG Maker games?
Oh gosh. Basically back in 2008 I wanted to make a Final Fantasy 9 fan game basically. And I was looking for some game software to make it with. I never actually done it before myself. I wanted to learn how to make my own game. So I came across a site called rpgmaker.net. And I think I lurked around for a year, just like on the forums, just to see how they talk to each other. And once I started making my first game called Waking Dead, and I felt really competitive back then because, like, I have Pudda. She was Sorcerer Crystal beforehand, and Cosplay Crisis was my number one rival. I wanted to beat Cosplay Crisis. So I always upped my game when she upped her game, and I upped my game more and she upped her game more, and it was just like, in my mind, it's friendly competition, but she knew nothing about it. And I don't know, I always wanted to improve myself throughout. I always try and like hit the next milestone. So my number one goal at the time back then was to, win a Game of the Year. I was roughly around 19 and I made the Lost Girls demo and I didn't really get anybody, download it that much or spoke to me about it. There's a few that did, and between then and, now I made Choice, which was originally a 3-day game contest game by Shinrin, and that was basically make a game based in one room in 3 days. So I managed to make a game in 3 days, which is about escaping an apartment when room invaders came in. I don't remember it that much. Home invaders, that's it. So people come in, try to take a disc off you. And then I made another game called Suicide Club 3, which was based on another event, which was make a game in 2 hours. And it's just basically convincing people to commit suicide. I won't be able to make it now. I'll probably get shut down. No way. And
it's based on an existing thing as well, which is weird to think about. I've never heard about before.
Existing film franchise, yeah. Twitter would tear me apart if I do that now. And I think in 2011 I actually approached Calunio for a surrealism contest, the Summer Games, wasn't it?
I remember that.
You remember that, Calunio? Yeah, with Max McGee, yeah. Oh god, that was interesting, wasn't it? And the truth is, this is exposé time, was that I just wanted to play a surrealist game, and so I hoodwinked the community into making surrealist games for me to play. But and then I just went on to, I think at the time I just wanted to make a new game, and that was the current project Cover Your Eyes, and I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much my story, I guess.
It's good to hear your story and how it kind of overlaps with others as well.
Oh yeah.
We've been around for a while. Well, you and Calunio, and I'm getting old too on the RPGmaker.net server, but let's not think about that.
Oh, how many years have you been?
I think I joined in 2013.
Oh, right. Oh.
But yes, I'd like to ask 16-bit, what is your story with RPG Maker? How did you come to make games and stuff?
So I think it's about 15 or something, and I used Newgrounds a lot back in the day. I don't think, maybe it wasn't when it was at the peak of popularity or something or whatever, but used to use it all. I use it now as well because it's good for art. But I think someone made some video on Newgrounds and it had Uboa in it, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And I found out about Yume Nikki. I think I'd used RPG Maker a few times before, or something like that. I don't remember, but I remember it was like made in RPG Maker 2003, and I was like, RPG Maker 2003, what the heck? That's like the thing little like kids used to make like the basic little. I think I'd seen it on like a live stream or something. Some like guy. It might have been a Vine Sauce one where he's going through like bad RPG Maker games or something. I was like, geez, you can do that with RPG Maker. So I picked it up again. I think I played Space Funeral after that. And yeah, I really like Space Funeral.
That's great.
That's probably obvious if you played the game. Yeah. So I started tinkering around, and Monochrome Memories, I wouldn't really consider it that much of a game. It's more just a public version of my experiments, finding out how RPG Maker works.
Mm-hmm.
In like a really crappy 1-bit aesthetic. But yeah, that's how I started, and then I moved on to make Where the Moon Goes at Night. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. It's good to have you here, and I've gone through your work. I'd say so you kind of started in 2016-ish, was the sort of
16-ish, yeah. I think I did some stuff earlier than that, but I can't really.
And then you only really started.
No, it wasn't published online, yeah.
And you've done some artwork for like some other games like Monster Crown, Indiepogo, Lisa, Hopeful.
Yeah. Ooh. Lisa the Hopeful. That was the first proper game I worked on, because it was I don't know if you're that familiar with Lisa the Hopeful.
A little,
but the whole gimmick with that was the whole like Lisa sort of community gathered around that game, and they made the aesthetic a lot better and a bunch of stuff like that. Made custom music for it because it was pretty visually similar to The Painful, and that was it was really going away because stuff like Pointless, I think, really started to make that obsolete. Not many people wanted to do that anymore, which is kind of sad because that's really peak artistic design, I guess. Yeah, so the whole thing, and then I sort of came in and I was like, oh, I'll make some artwork for you. It was really ugly. Being honest, it's kind of ugly right now. If I look back on it, it is god-awful.
I think it's good when you look back at some of your work and then you realize you've grown.
Yeah, I had to look at my portfolio. I have a big document where I have all my artwork, and I look back at some of it and just say, oh my god, Jesus Christ. There's some of it that's still good, yeah, but... and then Indiepogo, I just made some like fan art, and the guy's like, this was back when... I don't want to get too controversial here, but this was back before the whole Nicalis scandal came about, and they wanted to pitch a bunch of stuff to Nicalis. So they're like, we'll use some of your art, okay? And I'm like, sure. And then I made another one as they were doing it, because they were like, they DM'd me that day, and I'm like, I'll make one more for it. And then, yeah. I can't discuss much further than that. You can check it out on Twitter, because I don't know what they're going to put in. I don't know if they are going to put anything in. Yeah.
This next question is sort of like open to anyone who kind of wants to answer, but what types of games are you interested in? Was there a specific type of game that you're interested in that inspired you to create stuff? To create the games that you did? Did it come from... Yeah. This is just open to anyone who wants to answer about their influences.
I think I can mention... Because mostly I don't think the type of games that I like to play are the same games I like to make.
Yeah.
But one game that really inspired me in a way, in many ways actually, and it's the kind of game that I like making, is called, I forgot the name, Card Life.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Have you guys heard of it? Yeah. It's the kind of game that I like and that I like to make because it's not a fun game. It's not a game that you feel happy while playing. It's quite the opposite, actually. It's a very depressing game. The graphics are depressing. The mechanics are depressing. And it's brilliant at the same time. It's hard to explain why it's so good. I think it's good because it conveys the feeling of the characters involved in the game through the game mechanics. I think that's what's brilliant about it, and I think that's the kind of game that inspires me.
I think we have something very actually in common for our latest projects, is that I'm not sure, but I think that your latest project is very heavily inspired by Cart Life, would you say? Because mine is. Mine definitely is. Well, I think we were talking about it earlier. We'll talk about that later because we're going to talk about specific projects, but Cart Life is one of my favorite games of all as well. Definitely inspired I want to make a life simulation game, so that pretty much came before Cart Life, but until Cart Life came along and showed, so they're actually doing this. This is a thing. This is like a manifestation of what I've dreamed about cool. beforehand.
Space Funeral.
So cool
Space Funeral was a very inspiring game to me too, because I think there's a lot of freedom in the way it was made. I don't think the creator of the game put a lot of thought on it. Not in every detail. I think it was mostly spontaneous. At least it felt like it, and that's one thing that inspired me. And I think my game Polymorphous Perversity is heavily inspired on Space Funeral. It's a game that I really like too.
Oh yeah, I think 16-bit would have something to say about Space Funeral, but I think because I'm similar. Like, I'm not incredibly inspired. Well, I don't. It didn't hit me in the same way, but I can see like how it would inspire. What was I going to say about it? I was going to say something. Oh yeah, and Catmitz or Catamites is someone who in general I think is just incredibly intelligent and well thought out, but this, like you said, it could be just something that was on the fringe of their mind, just kind of creativity gone wild. But I think his sheer intelligence just kind of shines through in the satirical kind of elements of the game and the sarcasm, and I think it's pretty brilliant in that way. 16-bit, I think you'd have something to say about Space Funeral and games of its own.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, so the kind of games I'm interested in. I mean, as I said earlier, I really liked Castle Crashers when I was younger. I sort of like that sort of comedic style with visuals. Sort of Earthbound, looking at it retrospectively, I mean, I think it's a bit overrated, but it's still pretty good.
For something with that much response, it's definitely hard not to be overrated, but still, yeah.
yeah, most definitely. It's just, I really like sort of the more comedic games, especially visually, that just sort of let themselves sort of be, I guess, untamed, if that makes any sense, in terms of their comedic elements mixing with more serious elements. Like Mother 3 is pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
With that, but it's a little too serious.
That would be a pretty big influence of Where the Moon Goes at Night. And amongst
definitely. All right. Gift Pia was also pretty inspirational. Not everyone talks about that game. It's vastly underrated. That and Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. I played Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. Do you know about that game?
No. Tingle's.
It's the Tingle game, the weird Tingle game that everyone on YouTube makes videos about. And they're like, "Oh, it's so weird! Whoa!" It's the one where you throw money at people and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I really like that.
It's a DS game.
Yeah, I really like that one. Yeah, it's a DS game.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's got some interesting perspectives.
That one's really cool.
And
yeah,
and
very nice art style. I think.
These are all pretty colourful, comical, absurd kind of art design sort of games that
yeah,
which seems to be right down your alley.
Most definitely.
StarSkipp, how about yourself? Games that inspired you?
Oh, well, I'm just trying to think of games. Scott Pilgrim versus the World on the old PlayStation 3. You ever played that before?
Okay, no, I know about it, but...
Oh, yeah. The artwork of Paul Robertson is what got me into games. For Kings of Power, the YouTube video, have you seen that?
No.
Oh
I'm
gosh,
looking
well,
all
I
these
need to
up.
educate you.
Yeah.
No, I think what got me into it was the works of animators and such. Like, I always wanted to do pixel art, for example, and make my own animations. I used to draw a lot when I was a child. I used to play Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and I don't know. Over time, I just wanted to make my own game, I guess, and I was really into Final Fantasy IX. This is quite sad, but for example, I actually writ out the whole, before the internet had the script up for Final Fantasy IX. I actually played through the game and writ down all the dialogue that they spoke, and just so I can use it for my own fan game. And you can picture 30, 40 hours worth of dialogue. Oh, I don't know how I managed it, but I managed to get halfway through. I think this was back when I was 14, I think, roughly. Plenty of time. My GCSEs were going on. Resident Evil 4 is a major influence on me as well.
Yeah.
Threw all my grades out, basically did not bother revising, so sat down, played Resident Evil 4, came out with some okay grades, managed to get into college regardless, but, it holds a special place in my heart, those games anyway. And that's what sort of inspired me.
A game's good when it affects your grades.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know how I passed. Honestly, don't know how I passed now.
I'm pretty sure when I created a game, it made me fail an exam. I won't tell my parents that, of course, but
Oh, which game was that?
Maximus Jones. It was my first game that I created and released to the world. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it made me fail an exam.
Yeah, luckily we don't go to school anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next minute I'll be like, yes, this game made me get fired from... No.
It probably has happened before.
Yeah, I have a developer friend who has created games at work. So...
I've thought about that myself, getting my laptop on my break and just doing some game work, but you only get 15 minutes of break. It's not really worth it, really.
Yeah. I think they were in a kind of work where it was long hours, but they weren't always on, so it was kind of, they could use their downtime to do stuff.
You could do Unemployment Quest.
Yeah, that one, yeah.
Do a Kickstarter, yeah.
Oh gosh, I remember that game. Wait, there's there's that RPG. Yeah, that was that brought up quite a few feelings within me. It was one of those first truly successful Kickstarters that I went, wait, oh, really?
Yeah. Is that the prime example of our RPG Maker? What we're capable of?
There was a lot of buzz around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was completely RTP, bad combat design. I'm dunking it, but yeah, it was. Oh man, it was a terrible game, and it just got 10,000 on Kickstarter. It was one of the first few successful Kickstarters on RPG Maker, and
yeah, man. Wow. Oh, I could talk all day about Kickstarter, but never mind.
Another episode. Yeah. Okay. Our next question: what inspires you to keep working?
I think I have an answer for that. It's pretty tough for me because making time to make games these days has been harder and harder because I have a lot of professional projects. But I don't know if I said it, but I'm a psychologist working as a psychotherapist, which is also the theme of my next game.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that inspires me, at least that makes me want to make games the most, is that I like making games that are more on the darker side of things, which is something I don't get to talk about much in my profession because as a therapist, I have to make people happy.
Yeah.
And as a game designer, I don't.
You can let loose.
I can work with other types of feelings and other types of values, I think. And I can bend morals a little. And I think I get to be a bit more of myself. Because I think in my personal life, my professional identity has become much of my personal identity in many ways. And that's not good in in a way.
Right.
So I like bringing that a bit darker side, I think, to games. And most of the games also deal with something that's happening in my personal life too at the moment. So it's more of a personal thing for me.
More like self-therapy, is it? Is it self-therapeutic, making games?
Can you therapeutize yourself?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, definitely. For example, in Beautiful Escape, I don't know which of you have played it, but the love story between Verge and Daly is based on things that I lived. And when I'm going to spoil the game, doesn't matter. When Verge kills Daly at the end of the game, it was therapeutic for me because it also meant something about my personal life too.
Yeah. We all have to put our own personal touches in our games to make it a bit resonant, I suppose. Just, the relatability that we kind of... games, for me at least, are a way of connecting with the audience, whether it is from, some of the games that StarSkipp mentioned earlier about, like really popcorn games to the deeper kind of games. I think they all stem from a place of us trying to connect to people through games. That's something that I've seen in creators,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that as an independent game designer, we don't get to make games that are technically as good as AAA games, I don't know, or as commercial games in general, games that are made by huge teams and there's a lot of money involved. So I think a game made by a single person needs to be personal. Otherwise, there's no point in making it.
I know that Lysander, for example, is a good example, a blurred line of someone who's gone on to just transition out of RPG Maker development into, I think he does completely like commercial stuff, working with, I can't remember which big company, but like level designers on big games that I forgot, but if I mentioned them, it would be like, oh snap, that's a massive game. But like, there's something about working on an independent kind of game that just is special, I feel, especially in this day and age. It's become more like accessible and stuff.
Yeah.
16-bit or StarSkipp? Who would like to answer this question?
Ooh, I guess
after
you, 16-bit.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
No, I'm British. I'm quite.
Right.
I let people go first. Syria, not Canadian though.
Very polite.
Right, very proper, yeah. For me, I mean, it's just I'll have ideas. I mean, with Where the Moon Goes at Night, which is probably my most fleshed out, or most complex game that I've done. It was really just thinking of like ways to progress and make sort of more humorous scenarios. For example, there was a bit, sort of to lengthen the game a bit too. For example, there's a bit, I'm going to spoil a bit of the game I made, so if you haven't played it,
Spoiler,
which game?
The Moon Goes at Night.
Yeah, spoilers.
Oh, I'm playing that game at the moment. I'll just put my earphones out.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a bit after you get to the top of the tower and have the confrontation with the fish gentleman, where you basically your elevator crashes down to this underground like mountain. That was really there because I wanted to make it more comedic. There's a lot of because I thought of a bunch of stuff in that sort of moment. I guess this is difficult to explain. Jesus.
Go.
But,
take your time.
Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff where there's character designs that I wanted to incorporate that I thought were really good. And I would like test it out. I had a mate, Crispy, who I'd send over like a sort of, not really demos of it, but more like just videos of me playing through bits of the game that I was making. And there's a character, it's a fat worm, and he really liked it. So I'm like, okay, I'll flesh this out a bit. So he was going to be a really minor character originally. He's the one that, if you haven't played the game, he becomes like really buff, and he like beats the shit out of you. There's like leads to the joyful music.
Do. Yeah.
Yeah. As worms do, yeah. So, yeah, it's mainly just stuff that's sort of fan service before fan service begins. I'm not making any sense right now.
No, that
Jesus.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What you're saying is like you got feedback from them as you were developing to kind of help shape the game, which is an interesting way to tackle it. Not everyone does it that way. They kind of go individual first, and then they just go from their own muse, but...
So a lot of it was actually individual first, and then I would send it over to Crispy, and then he'd be like, well, for example, in the end of the game, you fight Taragu again. And the reason you do that is, well, I really like the character, first of all, and a lot of the people that played the demos really liked the character too. And so the idea, I was originally going to have him like change costume because I didn't like his old design. I wanted to change it. And then I don't remember who said it. It might have been the guy who was doing the promo art. He said, you should probably use both of them. I don't really like the idea of you abandoning the first design. So I'm like, all right, then. Yeah, so it's really like community feedback that really drives me to finish stuff, I think.
It's interesting, like the way of, getting communal, like sort of people talking about your
small
game
community, yeah.
Cool. I like that. Okay.
Ooh. Hey.
Yes, we've got Star back. Star, having ever so politely let 16-bit, in front of you through the door, now it is your turn.
Oh, yes, okay.
It is your turn to shine.
Like
what
a
inspires
star.
you to keep working?
What inspires me to keep working? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I think as I grow older, I just really want to complete my own feature-length game. I never actually fully commit to like finishing anything. It's been in development for years, my current game. I just always keep on pushing myself. So no matter I get very few hours in a day these days, but roughly I go to work, spend time with my girlfriend, partner, and then I get roughly 2 hours a night between, let's say, 10 o'clock to 12 at night. And I just want to complete my game before I reach the age of 30, because it's been going on a bit too long now. Being an RPG maker for 10 years, and I just want to get it out through the door and move on with other things, possibly in different engines or possibly team-based games, because 100% I'm not going to make a game by myself ever again. No way.
I think that the struggle is real, right?
Oh yeah.
With when you have only a limited amount of time. I remember when I was at university, it was a lot easier.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I think Calunio could probably also testify to this. Not sure about 16-bit, whether he's still in uni or not. But I'm
gonna keep that a mystery.
Mystery. It's just definitely just trying to find those hours, those precious wee moments where you can actually work on your game and progress it.
You're actually quite productive in those hours. So I notice if I have a day off, I work on roughly 6 hours a day, maybe, possibly. But when I was younger, I used to take so much time just doing half hour's worth of work. But now that I know that my time is precious, I'd always try and make the best use of it, no matter what.
It used to be the classic study method of sharpen your knife for 10 hours and work on it for 1 hour.
Oh, never heard of that. We'll use that next time.
Yeah, just keep sharpening your knife by watching some good old YouTube videos, some Netflix series, and then it'll make it that much greater when you make that one sprite.
10 hours to get motivated. Then half hour worth of work. Yeah. Oh.
It's actually this is an interesting topic because I've been trying to transition to the mode of not of getting out of that mindset where I have to sharpen my knife, where I have, because it's I'll be okay to work if I watch some more YouTube or something. I'll be more rested, but it's usually for me a myth. I've found that I can work on it right now. I just have to get in the right mode with not YouTube, just sitting down and working on it. And usually after 5 minutes of working on it, I'm more motivated to work on it more. and then it just comes more natural.
Yeah, you just have to force yourself at first, and then gradually over time you start enjoying it. So, like, sometimes I'm like, I've got to force myself to do it. Force myself. And then roughly after 5 minutes, I just get onto one thing and then another. And then it's like, oh, God, it's 1 in the morning. I've got work in 4 hours. What do? Go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. That feeling. We're going to transition to our next segment, which is called The Question Book. This is our segment where RPG Maker community users ask questions related to game development and design that we probably don't know the answers to, no promises, but we will try. Unity asks, what do you think about the RTP debate? The RTP being the runtime package that is packaged with the RPG Maker engine. Can a game be fun if it only uses resources that came with the engine? What can an RTP game do to stand out apart from the rest?
Can I don't think that people are going to like my answer, because
Go ahead.
mostly I hate RTP deeply, and I don't think people should use it ever, unless they're just making their first games or experimenting. But if you're going to make a game for other people to play, I don't think you should make a game that looks like a lot of other games. That's the biggest problem for me. Not because RTP looks bad. I think RTP looks okay. The RTP from the newer versions of RPG Maker are very good and more customizable, I think, because you can like create characters in RPG Maker MV, for example. But that's just a problem. Your game loses identity. And I think the first part of a game identity that everybody gets in contact with, it's the visuals. And if your game looks like other games, you're already losing. I don't know. I don't think I could play. As a person who is involved in the RPG Maker community, I've played lots and lots and lots of RTP games, and when I play an RTP game, I just feel like I've played that game before many times, and it doesn't get me very interested.
Right.
I think there are options. If you can't do your own graphics, which you should try, because if you want to make simple graphics, you can learn that with a little effort. But if you cannot do that at all, you can just use rips or photographs. I don't know. There are other ways to make graphics using all sorts of sources. For example, Catamites, I don't know how to say his name.
I think both variants.
He once made a game using photographs from his bedroom, if I'm not mistaken. He took a picture of his bed and of objects. It's a good alternative, and the game looks quite unique, and it's interesting. It's better than playing an RTP game. So I know some people feel like they don't have an option, but if you do, please do not use it. I don't like it, but maybe that's just my opinion.
Yeah, but I think sometimes it can be used sort of effectively. Toilet and Wonderland, for example, I really like, and it uses a lot of. I think those are stock, or not? They're not stock. They're like RTP engine assets, I think. It still looks kind of good, I think.
Oh, right. The thing about... I mean, I kind of like to stay diplomatic on this topic. I err on the side of custom graphics just because...
Yeah, I like custom as well. I just think it's...
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's just sort of a few niche situations, I think, where it can be used and look kind of alright.
And for example, this kind of Toilet in Wonderland, it has got, well, it's kind of a parody sort of comedic game, so it sort of kind of can benefit from the camp aesthetic of RTP being combined with these other weird, like, strange graphics.
Yeah, so, like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and
being a character in the big images. Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah. So I think part of its appeal also comes from using these RTP assets creatively to create. So there's a lot of custom, interesting graphics in Toilet in Wonderland, and I think it's used quite effectively.
Quite effectively, yeah.
For the tone of the game.
Yeah, I think that and Space Marine are the only real games I think that really effectively do the whole stock RPG maker asset thing very well.
Yeah, I think also like, yeah, because if you want to make a game that has some sort of visual impact on the player, you probably it would be good to use custom stuff because to differentiate it from other games, to make it feel like its own thing. Like Calunio said, it would always like associate it with all the other games, the style of the other games that have come before, unless you want to make a point about those type of games, which I feel like Toilet and Wonderland. I made a game called Project 1, which was a meta game about RPG Maker games, and I used full RTP for that, but it kind of made a point, like, about the RTP itself. So yeah, I think it's just, if it supports what you're trying to do, which I think I'd encourage custom. I love custom graphics.
Yeah, I like custom too. I encourage that as well. I'm just saying, I think Toilet and Wonderland and a few other games can do it and pull it off reasonably well.
StarSkipp, you have anything to say about that, or just pass on?
I'm just going to echo like what Calunio says. Like, most of them seem quite soulless. Like, a lot of work goes into them, but once you play one, you played like 5 other ones. There are a few that stand out, but I can't really call the names off the top of my head. That's the thing. I do use like sound effects though. Like, I do encourage custom completely, but if you want to like pinch like maybe 1 or 2 RTP, I don't see any problem with there.
I would say like for graphics, there's a lot of stuff, but it's hard to kind of keep it in the same aesthetic. Sometimes it's the thing about graphics that can be hard. You have to, if you're going to get graphics from different locations, you have to make sure they're in the same style and so on. But for sound, it's a lot easier, I'd say. This is coming from a person who makes music, who has made sound effects in the past. It's a lot easier to make a cohesive sound scape. And some creators do really well with that. But I would say, with sound, try and do custom sound effects, because it's, it doesn't take that long to Google some sets or something that don't sound like every other RPG Maker game out there.
Or maybe experiment a little and just make weird sounds in the microphone, maybe, and just like edit it later.
Oh yeah, if you record your own sound, it's guaranteed it's never been used in any other game. So it's already unique. If there's nothing else to say about that, I'm going to go on to Marion asks, what was the most mind-numbing or otherwise annoying bug you managed to resolve?
Oh wait, I'll go, I guess. If no one else is going to.
Go ahead.
There are 2 main ones that I had to resolve. One was, there's a secret boss. It's pretty early on. It's pretty easy to find.
Oh, spoilers again for StarSkipp.
It's not really that spoiler. It's not really that spoiler.
Okay.
Where
just the ending of the game is no.
Yeah, there's a sprite where it was too tall, so I was really freaking out about it. But then I just split it up into 2 different sprites and put them together. And then there was another one that I didn't really solve, but I think it kind of works. There's a fight early-ish on with a major-ish, well, not really that major, plot character, where you injure him and he has a line of dialogue. And, I mean, I tried to get a bug fix where it would sort of finish... Or not really finish. It was sort of like make it so that he would not repeat the line of dialogue, but it didn't really work out as I'd planned. But I guess it still works. It's still good. The only real issue is when you're in insane mode and his health is longer, lasts for longer.
Yeah, I gotta say, when you're making when you're in RPG Maker, if you're moving a character or a sprite, and then it comes against like an immovable object, there's like annoying ones. You're like, no, I got the move route wrong again. Happens all the time to me. Oh, and yeah, I mean, if you don't have a script, if like there's overflow of messages and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's also one more that I forgot about until you just mentioned it. But there's a part in the game where like a character moves during a cutscene, and I had no idea how to do that. So I just put a bunch of boxes around him so that he couldn't move.
Oh dear. StarSkipp or Calunio, any bugs that just wrecked your brains?
Not that I remember, to be honest, but probably a lot, because I usually try to make games in RPG Maker that are not RPGs, and my latest game doesn't even look like RPG Maker, so there's a lot of bugs involved, but I don't think there's one in particular that I remember.
Oh yeah, there's so many that sometimes it's hard to pinpoint one singular, because it's like it's a life of bugs. It's a bug's life. StarSkipp, is there any bug that kind of wrecked your brains trying to figure it out?
Oh god, yeah, that was one that took me like years to figure it out.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. It put me off making it for a while. It was this one where basically you aim your weapon, right? It's very hard to describe. You aim your weapon, and when you like let go of left shift, right, the frame animation will skip to a running animation for a split second. And then it resumes back to the ready stance where it bobbles up and down. It was an animation bug, and I could not solve it whatsoever. It took me years to do it, absolute years. And it was only after a break where I actually looked through like the script and noticed one line of code out of 10,000 lines. And I was like, okay, that's how you do it. So I just edited it, played it, and I was like, oh, thank God for that. Because I thought, oh, there's no way I can actually release this like this. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the bane of my life, that bug. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you solved it, after so long. I don't think I've heard of bugs that took years to solve, but that's very heartwarming story.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Keb H asks, what is the first thing you consider when coming up with a protagonist for your game?
I'm going to answer that first. I think, at least for my games, I try to make protagonists that are, I was going to say relatable, but I think everybody does that, or at least they think they do that, because not every protagonist are relatable.
Yeah, like Y2K.
I think I try to...
Like what, sorry?
Like Y2K, where you don't really like the protagonist at all.
Oh yeah, unlikable protagonists and stuff.
Yeah, but by relatable, I mean not just like them, but I think someone you can't identify yourself with. You can, someone that feels things that you also feel in your life. Well, I don't know if that's a good definition, but mostly I try to make characters that are relatable in ways that people are not always proud of. For example.
Yeah.
In Beautiful Escape, the main character is someone that is part of a community, much like Iron Man, and he's mad because other people write bad reviews about his videos, in case, and he's just mostly jealous of other people, and he needs to deal with his feelings of being rejected and jealous of other members of the community. That's the kind of feeling that I like to put in the protagonist and try to make the player relate to them.
Well, this is a fascinating question, particularly with regard to your work, which I think kind of makes me a massive fan of yours, is that a lot of people, like a lot of my favorite stories, the protagonist is not some squeaky clean person who always makes the right decisions. They like anti-heroes, I guess is the common term for it. But it's just like, for example, Susie and Freedom, one of my favorite RPG Maker games, is you're from the perspective of someone who I don't think it's a spoiler. It's a real. It's in the kind of context of the game, but it commits a murder, or is part of accomplice to it. Is kind of how do you make it ends up you being like you're in the shoes of this person and somehow being related to and simultaneously just kind of disgusted in a way, but like fascinated. I think it really it draws you in. It draws me in, at least. I think Dan Harmon said, "When in doubt, audience follows their pity." So you fade in on a raccoon being chased by a bear, we're the raccoon kind of thing. So like, say someone walks into a room and trips on the carpet, we're that person immediately. I think, and they says this, use that same part of your brain used to identify with them. I'm doing psychology stuff. I'm not the psychologist here. I'm just kind of, Calunio is probably just like nodding his head like, yeah, no, that's not how it's, but, but yeah, how do you feel about that, I guess? Like, are your protagonists relatable? Do you feel like, what connects you to them?
You mean my protagonists?
Yeah, I guess, and if anyone wants to kind of weigh in, but I thought...
I try to make them relatable, I think, but for example, you mentioned Susie and Freedom, and some of the protagonists are killers, and I know it's hard to relate to a killer, but it's possible. I think that's the challenge I try to accomplish with my games, make the player relate to something that's at the same time understandable but repulsive.
Yeah, that's really unique. I like that. How about the others? What is your first thing you consider when coming up with a protagonist?
I just usually base it on people I already know, or like through life experiences personally. I'm not really good.
So I guess not killers.
Oh no killers. No, I don't know any killers. No, I know people that have been to jail, but not for anything like that major. No.
No.
I'm sorry, I apologise. But yeah, I'm not very good at writing myself. I do try my best at writing, but I think that's my biggest downfall is I just can't write characters that well. So every time I sit down and try to relate to a character in my game, I always try to take influence from other people or through life experiences myself. How often people actually speak. You can't really write that in a game. So, for example, if you go speak to someone down at the shops or down the local pub, it's always rather simplified words, or they say the F-bomb every other word in Britain, for example. And you can't really write that in a game. So I always try, sit down and just try and figure out, it takes me ages just to figure out how people talk to each other. In a game format.
You might be living in a Calunio game, if that's the case.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I just find it quite difficult, really, just to... I can relate from my point of view, but because most of my protagonists are women, and I've been growing up with, brothers and sisters, I always, think, okay, how would a woman feel in this situation? So I usually would ask, my sister, or, just... in taking media or these various different topics just to find that point of view. But yeah, that's pretty much my 2 cents on it. It's pretty much my biggest weakness, writing.
Well, yeah, you have to draw from your own experience when writing protagonists and stuff. I mean, you might consider it writing flaw, but I mean, people have to act like people, so I think it's just ensuring that people do act like people, I guess. They have to have that wants and desires, I suppose.
Yeah. So it's maybe write up a short story, background. I don't do any background stories for my characters. I just write them as they are.
Yeah. 16-bit. How do you write your protagonist?
It's really interesting because I didn't really think of a protagonist first and then make the game and work with it that way. The protagonist in my game, Shiba, the design is just... so I went to Japan for holiday a little while ago, and while I was there, me and my friend from Japan went to some seal show, and there was a guy who was running the seal show, and I thought, oh, he looks kind of alright. I'll pop him in the game. So I mean, it's just I don't really think of it too much. I think I don't really think of it too much. I just do, whatever is interesting. I kind of like the Pokemon Red sort of style where it's up for the player to interpret stuff,
Yeah. Cool. So Darkin asks, what is the feeling after finishing development on a game?
Okay, let me start with this one. For me personally, it's a terrible feeling. It's one of the worst feelings ever because when I get very involved with the game, I create a very sort of emotional relationship with it. In a lot of ways, I think it satisfies me like an actual relationship would, and it keeps my focus so that I do not. Basically, when I'm working on a game, I don't worry or care about anything else, and that's a good thing. I think my mind gets
Brilliant.
clearer and more focused. And when I
Yeah.
finish the game, it just feels empty and it's kind of depressing. And sometimes I watch myself just going over the game and playing it again, and I don't know, I just feel like I need to come back to it, but it's kind of sad that it's over. It's not a good feeling at first for me.
Dang. Achingly
That's
beautiful. When I finish, I'm like, yippee! I finished it. I think...
No.
I'm like, oh, that's done. Over with.
Yeah. Because I think for me, there's so much unfinished that my ache comes from unfinishedness. My ache comes from, oh no, I don't finish these things. Why don't I finish these things? And then when I finally finish, I feel like it's worth something, like something noteworthy has been accomplished, and then I just try to bask in people's adoration. And then if there's a negative thing, I just block it out of my mind, and I block them in real life, and then I just kind of get destructive on them and start hurling insults back at them, and then they hurl insults back at me, and then I leave the site and become toxic. No, I don't, but but I've seen that happen. So 16-bit or StarSkipp, what's your feeling?
A game, basically, you never really finished a game, but you abandoned it.
So many games.
Very much polar opposites, yeah.
Feeling left behind.
Yeah. Well, you never really truly finish a game, really. You just merely leave it. You like put it in a finished state and just abandon it afterwards. But you always have a feeling that you want to go back and add a few things or whatever.
That's funny. I never have that. I always go, yep, it's finished, it's done, and it feels finished.
No. Just us.
16-bit, what's your feeling? Especially since you've kind of just finished your first massive project.
Yeah, it's the first one I would consider a real game. Of course, Monochrome Memories, it's technically a game, but I mean, it's more or less just my published experiments with RPG Maker and trying to get the engine to work. So I wouldn't really consider that a game. I wouldn't really consider that a release. But yeah, it felt, it's weird because when I released it, there's a bunch of stuff that I'm pretty nitpicky about that I would just go back to. I would play it a little bit after release to sort of see what was up with it. And I'd be like, this moment, I don't think people are going to like this bit. I'm like, I don't think people are going to like it. But when the promo art was being made, the guy who made it and one other person, I forget who it was. It might have been Crispy. But I know at least 2 people played through it before it came out, and they were like, oh, it's really good. You should stop beating yourself up so much. It's a really good game. And it feels so weird, because for me, it's like I'm just waiting for someone to be like, it's got this and this is good, but I really didn't like it. And when you finally do hear that, or when you finally do get that dislike or the few dislikes or whatever on YouTube, or you get the few comments that I don't know, I'm a little weird because I looked up gameplay footage of it for a little bit.
That's not weird at all. I do that all the time.
Yeah, we all Google ourselves after a while.
Yeah.
Am I famous yet?
No, not yet, no.
No. Still 0 views.
Yeah, so I'll look up on YouTube comments and I'll see people that are like, oh, well, it's alright, but it's too short. And I'll that'll just like hurt even more. They're like, yeah, should have made it longer, should have done this and that, and blah, blah, blah. But after a while, for me at least, I think it was after about 2 or 3 weeks of release, I sort of got to a point where I'm like, yeah, it's not perfect, but it doesn't really need to be. I don't think there's any perfect game. Space Funeral, I really love that game, but there's imperfect elements of it. I really like it though, and Lisa, which was a big one for me, that was pretty inspirational and influential for making my own games. There's a lot of flaws in that when I look back at it.
It's so easy to release a game and put it out into the world, and then focus, look for the negative responses.
Yeah,
because you kind of have that imposter. Okay, fine. Are you going to notice? See through my facade already?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, when's the facade going to be up? When are people going to start ripping this thing to shreds,
It's so hard sometimes to see your game as well from a perspective of someone who hasn't created it, who doesn't see it from that perspective. And so for some people that actually manifests either way.
Now I remember. It was
either they are blind to the flaws of their game, or they're blind to the good parts of it. It's sometimes really hard to see it and experience it from someone's perspective who's just never played your game before. I think that's and then you just
now I remember the other guy who play tested it was a developer friend of mine, and he I remember this because I'd forgotten it. I feel so weird about that. But anyway, he said, he was like, oh well, it's really confusing. I don't know where to go. So that, I think that sort of. It's also helpful. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about you need to get feedback or whatever while you're in development. But because a lot of the parts of it, there's a part in it that's really early on where you're trying to get into a building, and he got really confused about that because there's a really strong boss. There's 2 ways to do it, and you can get a really strong boss and fight him. No,
it's hard as well than trying to figure out which criticism is valid as well, because everyone has a different experience.
Yeah, that was really tough for me too. There was a lot of people that are like, "Oh, it looks like an Earthbound ROM hack," and I'm like, "I don't think you've played Earthbound, dude." So it's hard to find which criticism is valid, especially when you go into bigger sort of, I guess community discords now would be the sort of equivalent now, but when you go into forums and stuff.
Great. That's a universal experience. I feel, quite a few people just kind of had that self-doubt and just kind of, imposter syndrome, and you just have to realize that you are talented and you're the best developer in the world and no one can tell you otherwise, and just keep your ego high, just dismiss everyone's criticisms because they're all wrong. I'm going to head on to some We're going to head over to some quick-fire questions, which are to be answered by our guests in single words or fragment sentences, which might not be a thing. But, some of our users have suggested some. Here's some by Fomar. He says, none of you are asking the serious questions. Shame on you. I can't do his distinctive British accent. But, Pokemon Sword or Shield?
Sword.
I got Sword, but I'm not a fan of...
I haven't played either, so I would say Insurgents, the best Pokemon I've played.
Yeah. I'll say Pokemon Yellow. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Pie.
It turns on the day of the week.
I'm going to say pie, but we have meat pies in New Zealand, so that's the thing. Dogs or cats?
Cats. You can tell from my profile picture.
Cat.
Well...
Cats.
I was going to say it must be hard to develop games when you've got, those beautiful black paws of yours. Just trying to type on those keys. Difficult. As a fellow cat, I'm just going to say cat as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say cat just because of our host.
Tea or coffee or something else?
Neither.
Coffee.
I don't drink either.
Both at the same time. Rex is from Freebird Games Discord asks, what's the best and worst part of being indie?
Time.
Yeah.
I think sorry, I'll let you go first.
I'm just going to say, best part is I get to do what I want. Worst part is I get to not do what I get to... I get to want to do what I want and not do it.
Yeah. I think freedom is probably the best and worst part. It's the best part, but it's also pretty scary because you can do anything and you have too many decisions to make.
Yeah. 16-bit?
Yeah. For me, the best part of being an indie developer is that you don't really have to listen to what everyone else is saying to get your game made, that is. I mean, you have to listen to when there's criticism, but whatever. Worst part is probably that very same thing, because you can get so self-absorbed in your own story and think that everyone else really cares about the deep-seated backstory of X or Y character, even though they might not.
StarSkipp.
Huh?
You already answered that.
Oh yeah, I just said time. Sorry. I think the freedom to do what you want, but there's always a risk, right, where you might offend somebody along the way if you exploit that freedom a bit too much.
Yeah.
But make the game you want to make. Though.
Yeah, that's actually funny. There's a bit in Where the Moon Goes at Night where you can dress up as a missionary. And my friend was like, "Oh, that's going to be controversial, isn't it?"
It's just double thinking yourself what may offend somebody, especially in our day and age, where, like, if you, like, let's say, I don't know, post something about postmen that someone don't like postmen for whatever reason. I'm just using a vague example about postmen for whatever reason that may be. It's the first word that popped in my head. You may end up offending, like, the Royal Mail or some other postal service, especially if it's in a demeaning light. Oh dear.
Weaver ants or fire ants?
Ants. Because fire ants sting.
I don't really know the difference, to be honest.
One's got weaver, one's got fire.
I'm going to pass that one.
Yeah, I don't want to choose an ant. I let them fight it out. I'll let them fight out an arena and see who wins.
I think fire ants. Yeah, I like that a bit better.
Oh, fiery. How do you like your salsa? With ants in it? Weaver ants in your salsa? I like it spicy.
I don't really like salsa, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Sam, I don't like salsa either.
Okay.
I don't know if this question is literal or metaphorical.
And that has been the end of our podcast. Lord Blue asks, how do you make a sandwich?
Bread?
You just order it from DoorDash.
You bargain in the River of Souls. You bargain a coin to cross the crossing and grab the sandwich on the other side.
Yeah, I think we could skip those two questions, 3 and 4 to 5.
Why RPGmaker.net?
I think RPGmaker.net is the best resource to find niche RPG Maker games. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion.
It's a good place for players and developers to foster our creativity together.
I think it has an easy-to-use platform for hosting and fighting and playing games, and I really like the community too.
Mm. And all the RPG Maker web listeners have left the chat. Good. It's just us now. No. Okay. We are going to transition to our next segment, which is asking each of our guests about their individual projects. Our first project is by 16-Bit King. It's called Where the Moon Goes at Night, available in English, French, and Spanish. It's added to itch.io on April 16th, 2019. Latest version was...
No, it's just Game Jolt. There's no itch.io, I don't think.
Huh?
There shouldn't be an itch.io unless someone's trying to pirate it.
Sorry, Game Jolt. Game Jolt, my bad.
Game
Jolt. Game Jolt on April 16th. Version 1.4 posted to Game Jolt 17 days ago, so it's been recently updated. Completed game made in RPG.
Recent update. It just adds a new difficulty mode. That's sort of a thank you to the RPG Maker community for nominating for Miss House.
Yeah, insane difficulty. Completed game was made in RPG Maker 2003, and it has been a hobby project of 16-bits for the past few years between their other jobs. Players assume the role of Sheba, a salaryman who finds himself stuck on a mysterious train on Tetentai Island. Inspired by Space Funeral, Gift Peer, and Earthbound 16-bit, set out to create a game with a unique feel and approach to the RPG genre, while retaining a sort of classic RPG Maker game feel like Off or Yume Nikki. Well, those are kind of a little bit out of the ordinary, but you can donate to 16-Bit King on their Ko-Fi page, ko-fi.com/16-Bit King. Shout them a coffee if you like the game.
Yeah.
In-game artwork and programming were created by 16-Bit, but the promo artwork, music, and playtesting were done by a few friends of theirs. I've played this game, finished this game. I like this game. It's really nice. It's wacky, it's colourful, and really nice. StarSkipp is in the middle of playing, so if we have any spoilers, we'll kind of.
I'll try not to spoil too much.
No, that's all right. I'll pop to the loo.
Tell me how far you are, so I know what not to spoil.
It's quite embarrassing. I'm at the cavemen bit.
Oh, okay. So you're not too far into it.
If we have spoilers, we'll just kind of warn.
Yeah.
But yeah, my first kind of question is like, given its story, its gameplay mechanics, its feel, what were you aiming for with this game? What inspired you, and where were you aiming with this? Like, what kind of experience?
Well, it's interesting. So when I made the game, there was an influx of a lot of RPG Maker games that I don't know, it's weird to describe, but there's a sort of feel that I get from Space Funeral, Yume Nikki, Lisa, and Toil and Wonder. A lot of these sort of things that would be considered sort of classical RPG Maker games that were made before there was any real sort of larger community around them, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked the sort of purity that had. And I think nowadays it's been more or less diminished because there's a lot of, I don't want to trash any other games, but there's a lot of games that they're very referential now to other RPG Maker games. I guess One Shot also is kind of like that too, but it's a bit different. Yeah, so I really kind of wanted to make a game that felt a lot like, Off or Space Funeral, or mainly Off. My friends that tested it and got like early screenshots, they're like, "Oh, this is kind of like a parody of Off," and I'm like, "Works."
I'll just
I'll just say that it's like that, and then it'll all work out. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that, and then also I wanted to do something that was more innovative also with it. So there's the low HP mechanic, which is, it's more or less just taken from Pokemon Black and White, if I'm being honest here.
Yeah.
And then there's also the difficulty modes, which were added really last minute because a lot of my friends, they're more casual in terms of playing RPG Maker games, so they don't understand item management as well.
Right.
Really, the default gameplay was made primarily for, it was made for a lot of people that sort of skill level equivalent to Lisa the Pointless, if that makes any sense. Like, they've played a fair amount of semi-challenging RPG Maker games, and they know about item management and stuff like that. So, easy mode was added. That was the first one I did, and I was like, maybe I'll put in easy mode, yeah. And then they were like, it's still not enough. You need to nerf normal mode. And I'm like, okay then. And then I'm like, well, wait, but I want to make people have the experience that I had debugging in the game when it was still really hard, so I added in hard mode. And then insane mode, that was the most recent one. Was just RPGmaker.net had really been supportive of the game. A lot of downloads, and a lot of people apparently have been recommending it. So I was like, well, it's really cool. So I just added that in as a little tribute, I guess. And it's a lot harder. You get a unique ending for it. There was another bit with multiple endings. It's kind of like Off. I'm gonna spoil a little bit here. But I didn't really want the ending to definitively have one that's the good ending or one that's the bad ending, if that makes any sense.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good. Good to hear. I'm going to quickly switch to. We're going to come back to this game, but I'm going to quickly switch to Calunio's game, which is actually a current game that he's working on. If I'm correct, it's a game in which you're a therapist.
Yeah. It's called Therapist. I have a second title, Mind Manager, because when I Google for my game, I want to find it easily, and if it's Therapist, I would not find it easily. And it's also based on the pun that therapist is spelled exactly like the rapist. I think it's a common joke. So the games deals both with two characters, the therapist and a rapist. That's one of the therapist's clients, patients. And the game is overall a life simulator. A little bit like Art Life, also a little bit like a very old game that I really liked called Jones in the Fast Lane. I don't know if any of you have ever played it. It's very old. But I really, like you said, I always wanted to do a life simulator game. This is it. So I'm mixing some themes here. One is that life simulator, you have to take care of your character, but mostly take care of his psychological stats. Like the main two stats are mood and anxiety. So you do things that make you either more or less anxious or more or less happy, and you have to keep your character happy and not too anxious. Because if he's too sad and too anxious, he's just not going to do stuff. He might refuse to leave bed or go or do anything you tell him to do. So this is the main structure of a life simulator, but it also has psychological themes in the dialogues and in the story, mostly because you're a therapist dealing with people who have problems, and one of those people is a rapist. And there's a lot more to the story that I don't want to spoil, because the game it's in its very initial stages. But I can promise that there's going to be a lot of interesting twists.
I've read from you that it's comprised of some sessions, and your choices influence kind of what happens and how you feel about your own performance, and there's different skills at play while talking, unlocking dialogue choices and stuff. Is this still kind of like emblematic of the game, like a lot of conversational choices and how that affects the story?
Yeah, your job is a therapist, so part of what you do is work with clients, and it involves dialogue choices and other mechanics, so it's there. But there's also dialogues with other characters, like your girlfriend or your friends or people you meet on the street. And I'm not sure yet how I'm going to do those dialogues relevant to the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how you know that much about the game, because I haven't told about this game to anyone. It's not anywhere. I haven't posted it anywhere. Just talked about it a bit on Discord.
Yes, well, I have my ears, my ears and the birds in the sky. Yeah, we're going to come back to that in a sec, but I'm going to go on to StarSkipp's Cover Your Eyes. This one has gone commercial with a planned release date of August the 7th this year.
Oh gosh. a lot to put in my 2 hours a night there. A lot of time to put in.
A lot of time. There's some trailers available on Steam. You can watch list it there. Some of them incredible atmosphere, sort of well-cut trailers. I enjoy those. Description is a traumatic 2D top-down survival horror experience, apparently inspired by StarSkipp's own quote-unquote dysfunctional family. With 2 children under your care, you'll have to fight, think, and escape out of escalating circumstances as the town of Verwood undergoes an unprecedented metamorphosis. It aims to balance both Resident Evil-style action and the psychodrama of Silent Hill. And according to RPGmaker.net's credits, you've got Pador on portraits.
Oh, gosh. Yes, it's a bit out of date, that credit, so I need to edit that a bit.
Yeah, Dingaling and Gimmaker. I'm not sure if their stuff is still in there, because Dingaling
Dingaling's stuff is still in there, yeah.
Trader of Lisa.
Yeah, I'll sort that out.
It's often the case that online information kind of conflicts, especially if it's because this is an old game.
Oh yeah, it's a very old game. It initially started in 2012 to 2013, when at the height of RPG Maker horror games, and I was sort of getting a bit fed up with playing The Witch's House or other games. I loved The Witch's House, but I didn't really like the idea of having a helpless protagonist or going around the environment spamming enter just to find a key item. So the creation of the game, along with my own personal life at the time, sort of made me want to make a counter game to that in a way. And over time it evolved gradually. Well, my design process was pretty much map the whole game out and then the story comes second. I think that's my biggest mistake at the time. And I sort of rebooted it in February last year, just to make it more linear, more focused as a result. And
it's gone through 3 different names? Is it true?
Oh yeah, I only changed the name because there was a game that was similar. Another RPG Maker game came out and that had a really similar name to mine. I won't say which game it was, and I sort of got, I'll change my name, but then at the end I was like, I'm going to stick to my guns and go back to my original name, which was Cover Your Eyes. And
it was called Promiscuous for a little while.
It was, yeah, but I thought I'd just change it back, to be honest, because I didn't really like the name Promiscuous. And early on, I approached the creator of Lisa. It was just after he finished his first game, and before he released his second game, Lisa was Painful, asking, do you want to do a soundtrack for me? And he gladly obliged, threw some money at him, and he made me roughly 18 tracks, and we had a sort of working relationship for a while, where I help him out and he helps me out, and it's not ongoing as much as today, but we do keep in contact on occasion. But yeah, it's been quite a blast making it. I really enjoy making survival horror games, honestly.
You got Gimmaker helping out with some scripts and stuff. He's very talented.
Oh yes, he was another guy. I like to find talent and pick them up and have them help me out. So he helped me with the mouse aiming script in the game, where you hold down Shift and the mouse icon shows up, and you can move the mouse around and click the left button to shoot your gun. So
yeah, because it's one of the central gameplay aspects is shooting. But how do you expect shooting to work in this game? Is it more because you said Resident Evil style, but then is it is it like the classic or the new version of Resident Evil? Is it a lot of running away, or is it?
It's more of the new version. You can move whilst you're shooting. You can disengage and. Well, I'm sort of having problems with running away at the moment. I need a sort of, I might have to drop running altogether, the running animation, because there seems to be an ongoing problem with lag. So I might just have walk away quickly away from them, but I'll see what I could possibly do. But yeah, it's more based around Dead Space and more modern Resident Evil games where you can move and shoot at the same time. And if you hover the mouse over an enemy and click fire, you can hit them for critical damage. So, a lot of work went into it. The main protagonist has roughly over 3,000 animation cells just for throughout the game. So, for example, if you're picking up an object, you pick up an object, or I just try and go as much detail as I can, because I think the game starts with a protagonist, and if you make the protagonist really animate and come to life, then that's where the enjoyment centers around, because you'd be spending hours on hours with the same character. So I thought, be able to engage in the environment in different ways. So if you want to pick up a bed and chuck it out the street break a window, pick up a bed and chuck it out and jump on it, you can. But, it's only in certain circumstances you can do that, because, it's just too laggy otherwise. But yeah,
you can't implement a
company-wise,
full physics system in RPG Maker, unfortunately.
no, there's a lot of. I had to do a lot of like workarounds, like ridiculous amount of workarounds just to get most basic stuff right. But I'm quite proud of it so far. It's just a beautiful mess, but I can't wait to release it and show people what it's all about.
Yeah, I'm going to ask these questions to all three projects at once. Just kind of jump in when you would like. But first thing is, what went right about these specific projects? What things did you like about the process? And then what went wrong? And give us all the juicy details of that as well. So you feel like, what did you like about this project? And what is like some holdups or kind of difficulties? And this goes for everyone.
I can't say that what is going wrong for me at the moment. It's just that I'm almost done with everything about the mechanics of my game, which is pretty much everything of the game except the dialogues. And it's playable as it is, but when I play it, I find it kind of boring, and that's worrying me right now, that the game might be boring. I don't know if I'm thinking that it's boring because I'm sick of it, because I'm looking at it all the time, or maybe it just is. But I'm hoping that when I insert dialogue and story, that it's going to become better and more engaging. But that's my biggest problem at the moment.
Because is it designed to be quite a replayable game, or is this a once-through kind of thing?
No, I think it can be replayed because there are a lot. I think it can be replayed because there's a great possibility that the player will fail.
Okay.
And he has to start over. But once he's finished the game, I don't think... 16-bit said, it's also going to have a good ending and a bad ending. But otherwise, if you see both endings, I don't think you need to play it again.
And this might be just me biased, but if you need any playtesters, just feel free to
me too, please.
To contact me.
Yeah.
How about the others? What are things that you liked about it, or what went wrong?
I guess I'll go. So the thing that I think went wrong, it's sort of went right and wrong at the same time. I didn't really want it to be that popular. I think that would kind of detract from this sort of secrets, because there's a lot of secrets in the game, and that's, I think, where I went wrong, is that the secrets are really too hard to find, and they're really cryptic. There's like no dialogue in the game to suggest a lot of the stuff. There's a lot of stuff that is intentionally really hard to find. I don't think anyone's found some of this, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But there's at least one secret boss for every sort of area in the game, depending on how you count certain things. But yeah, that was a big flaw, is that I didn't really signpost to it, and that's also kind of related to the lack of NPCs. But
I think I'll ask this of Calunio again as well, though. But I'm going to ask you, what did you like about your game?
Oh, me? Sorry, I was being a bit too negative. Huh?
Yeah, it's sometimes hard for us to kind of focus on that. But yeah, what do you like about it?
I thought it was. I think the way it turned out, I'm pretty proud of. I'm pretty glad with the art direction and how that came along. I think it turned out pretty good aesthetically, and I think the plot turned out pretty funny when it needed to be, and fairly serious when it needed to be serious. Well, which wasn't that often, to be fair. But yeah, I think that was alright.
Calunio, I will come back to you. What do you think? What do you like about your current project? What appeals to you about it, and what is going right for you at the moment with this game?
Well, I'm enjoying a lot doing it overall, but I think part of it that's really fun for me is the calculus, the mathematics of the game, because there's a lot of fun calculus to do. For example, if you decide to sleep, because there's a lot of freedom in the game. So if you decide to sleep, how much do you sleep?
Yeah.
Because if I set for 8 hours, it's going to be weird, but if I decide the amount of sleep based on how much stamina you have, you can also wake up in the middle of the night and not be able to sleep again. So I have to decide kind of complicated formulas for these parts of the game, and it's been really fun to do that. For example, when you drink, how much hangover do you have the next day? There's a lot of numbers behind all that, and I think I'm having fun doing this.
Dang, it feels like if our games are released at the same time, we're going to be direct competitors. Because my game is similar, but I will say it is different in an entirely different way, that it focuses around family drama instead of therapy. So I think we're good in that respect. Phew.
Now I'm curious about your game.
Oh yeah, I'll send you a couple stuff. But who hasn't? Oh yeah, StarSkipp.
Me, yes.
Yeah. What have you liked about Cover Your Eyes, and what has been quite difficult? Both of them.
I think what went right is just my graphics. I think so much time has been spent drawing, and I love how the way it's came out so far, and the general atmosphere you get from the game. No, I'm biased because I'm the developer, but I think what I've got, like pacing wise, is quite good, along with the main mechanics. What hasn't gone well was poor planning at the very beginning. Hence why it's been taking forever.
So relatable, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is just a quick final question. Did making these games teach you anything in particular about game development or even life, if anything? If nothing, then that's cool. Not every experience has to be a lesson, but did making this game teach you something about game development or just yourself?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. In other words, what have you learned from this experience?
I don't want to be the first to answer.
When it comes to, let's say, if you're working on the project and it's not going too well, don't be afraid to cut back and refocus, and instead of carrying on with the project knowing that it's not going well. So regroup, look at your game. If it's working, it's working. If it's not, don't be afraid to restart possibly again, no matter what. And always keep working on your game. Like, even if it's like an hour a day, keep working on an hour a day, and just like take a big look at yourself whilst you're making it, and take care of yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. 16-bit, what have you learned from Where the Moon Goes at Night?
I mean, really, it just taught me that I can actually finish a game if I spend my time on it. Because, I mean, look, from an outsider looking in, game development is quite difficult. It seems very daunting of a task to sort of get into, I guess. But I think once you finish your first game, that's sort of the big hurdle that you sort of have to overcome. Sort of realize, you can do it. Yeah, you can it sort of makes you realize, you can do this if you just have enough faith in it.
Yeah, that's different. Like my first game that I released that was completed, it unlocked something for me. Up until that point, I was going across a lot of frustrations, across a lot of obstacles that stopped me from making games. But once I'd finished something even small, that kind of unlocked something. I was like, I can do this. This is how you do it. This is how you complete a game. And I knew all the steps. So
just sort of taking small steps,
Yeah, from there I kind of just knew, okay, I'll do this with all my other games, but just kind of refine the process each time.
I don't think I learned any new lesson making it yet, because there's a lot more to do.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of things that I already thought about, both game design and life, because it's a game about life, are somehow strengthened to the process. But there's one particular thing that I think may answer that question. That's when designing the therapy sessions, I wanted to, in a way, rate the session so the player would have a clear number to work as a feedback of how well he did in the session, because I think that's part of what makes a game a game. And one interesting thing that happened is that shortly after I designed this rating process, I also design a rating process for my real sessions as a therapist, and I'm using it right now. It's interesting to have a numerical feedback for what I do, and I shared with my colleagues, and they're using it too, and they really like it. To see if your session is 2, 3, 5, 4 stars. It's kind of interesting.
This kind of thing that you're creating this game from a place, it could possibly even be one of your most, like, the closest a protagonist has got to yourself, like almost a self-insert sort of thing, but your own experiences, would that be true sort of thing?
No, not at all. I think people are going to think that because I'm a therapist and the character is also a therapist, but in truth, he's nothing like me.
Okay.
It's very different in many ways.
I think the game will benefit from the authenticity factor because you have such an extensive background in psychology and therapy that it's just going to be like have facets to it that you've never probably thought of as an average person. And I think when they play your game, they're going to have these realizations. And I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, I want to make players have a little bit of contact with psychology and psychotherapy in a fun way that sparks their interest to the topic.
Excellent. Well, we have come to the end of our podcast. Thank you to our guests for being so giving of their time and their, it's been a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you. I was pretty nervous about the experience, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I enjoyed talking to all of you. You are all very fun people. I hope you can keep in touch after this, and thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
It was an honor, really. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me on. It's really nice being on this show. I'm a big fan of it already, even though it's been 2 episodes so far to date. But yeah, I'm really glad what you're doing, Cash. It's really interesting.
Oh, thank you. I'm always nervous. I'm always nervous when I come to guests. Believe it or not, I've done a few of these episodes that I need to release because my editing schedule needs to improve. But it's always kind of like, who will they be? What is their personality? Will it be easy? But it's always much easier than I think, because people are like, they're interesting and you're interesting, and I just really enjoy doing this. It's a pleasure of mine to talk with you. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you to see you who I've known some of you I've known for a long time. Some of you have just been interested in. It's just being able to talk like this is a pleasure to me. So the pleasure's all mine. I'm going to just give the space for you to advertise how to follow your progress, whether you have a Twitter or an RPGmaker.net account. 16-bit, where can we find you?
Yeah, I have a Twitter, but I don't use it that much, or I'm trying not to use it as much.
It's ProsciuttoMan. That's your
it's at Prosciutto_man. Capital P, capital M. And then I also have a Newgrounds that I use a lot more commonly. It's getting pretty good. I'm pretty proud of it. I joined about a week ago, and it's doing well. That's at ProsciuttoMan, but there's no underscore. And then you can find me on RPGmaker.net. It's 16-bit king. Sounds really narcissistic.
And your game is Where the Moon Goes At.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone should play it.
And then I'm working on. There might be a sequel to it. We'll see about Missiles.
When the Sun Goes in the Morning.
No, I was thinking of calling it like Dawn of the Cataclysm or something like that.
Oh,
something
snap.
Overly serious. Yeah, and then at the moment I have a demo out for another project I was working on. I might come back to it. It's called Château des Lapins, Castle of Rabbits. You can check that out if you want. It's really short, but I think you'll enjoy it.
Cool. Calunio, where can we find you?
I'm a little bit of mess on social media because my Twitter is psychology stuff. My Facebook is personal, mostly professional, but in Portuguese. My Instagram is just random pictures, and I think if you want to find my games, you just type Calunio Games on Google, and you find everything. It's not very organized.
You'll upload your game when it's time. You're kind of like a surprise sort of. Here's a game out of nowhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
StarSkipp, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter through StarSkipp. I was going to get StarSkipp, but someone else grabbed it before I could, the handle. Right. So you can find me on StarSkipp on Twitter. You can also add me on Facebook or whatever, but I give it out to certain people. And you can follow my game's progress on rpgmaker.net. It's probably the most frequent place I post about my game. And here's the stinger. Here it is. You can cover your eyes to your wish list on Steam.
Go ahead, add it to wish list on Steam. Watch it and buy it when it comes out.
Now.
Cover your eyes. This has been fun. Thank you very much, all of our guests and our listeners, for listening. You are all very privileged to hear from these fantastic prodigies. This has been us. Thank you for listening. Goodbye, all listeners. Bye.
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 Bye. See ya.